talking about how you have a Bhagavatam set somewhere and actually having one personally and physically present with you makes a big difference. We use those carts so you can roll the Bhagavatam, and when we meet somebody that's a little bit favorable, then we start presenting how we are offering the full Srimad Bhagavatam, and we tell about the Srimad Bhagavatam. We, in that way, meet people in various places. For instance, recently when a team went out to the college campus and they were selling Bhagavad Gitas, a devotee had thought to put one set of Srimad Bhagavatams in the Sankirtan van when they went, following the principle of get books, and also, yeah, and during that 3-hour outing, when the devotees were distributing the Bhagavad Gitas, one of the devotees, Malini Devi Dasi, who you saw in the film, met a professor there who was more interested than most people. And she began talking about the Srimad Bhagavatam and had one of the devotees go get it out of the car and showed it to the lady, and she bought it right there and took the Bhagavatam set home. So one of the main principles is don't be afraid to bring it along with you. It's worth the trouble of carrying the Bhagavatam and having it nearby, especially when we go door to door and shop to shop when we have Bhagavatams. If someone's very friendly and they invite us into their home, as an example, we bring in the Srimad Bhagavatam and we take it out and begin showing the full set. That includes Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. Meeting people and opening the box and lining up the books and just letting them see the books all together outside of the box has a real effect on people. And then going through the pictures and showing them. It's also helpful when there are children there to get them involved, because when the children see the pictures in the books and get interested, then the parents tend to want to get the Bhagavatam and think about offering it to the kids so that they can have it and grow up with it. And as far as the ISV team goes, they basically take the Bhagavatam team that goes out specifically to neighborhoods where they find people who will be interested in the Bhagavatam, and they'll, as you saw in the film, begin by presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam. And what we find is that when people don't take the Bhagavatam, they'll take several other books instead and apologize. So usually we sell a Bhagavad Gita for $10 or $20, but if we present the Srimad Bhagavatam for $250 and they say they can't take it, they'll take 2 or 3 other books and give $50 because they feel that they're getting away easy like that. One of the things people ask all the time is, can we just take one volume? And the devotees tell them that this is actually a deity and we can't break it up. So you have to take the whole thing. And people appreciate that it's different from, for instance, an e-book. The books have physical shape and size and the beautiful pictures inside, and they're actually deities. And as you saw there, we do this installation ceremony. Do you all do that? Install it with a little ceremony? Sometimes we find that when we're presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam, people are more interested in having the devotees come over. For instance, in Denver, Colorado, during a Sunday program, we showed the Bhagavatam and offered, you got to move the camera itself. We offered that if you take a set of Srimad Bhagavatams from the Sunday program, then we'll also come to your house with a plate of Mahaprasadam from the temple, and also we'll do an installation. And several people bought sets during that program, and afterwards when I was talking to them, they said the main reason they bought them was because the devotees would come to their house and bring them Mahaprasadam. So when you offer these sets of books, you can also offer premiums that go along with it that are not calculable in monetary terms. People might say, well, how much does it cost? And I can find it cheaper somewhere else, or something like that, which generally they can't. But if they say something like that, we already have built into the package many other kinds of things like installation, and they also get some Mahaprasadam. We have a phone line they can call in and hear about Srimad Bhagavatam. They get invited to one of our seminars, and all that is packaged together. Remember that slide about selling bunches like bananas? So it doesn't only mean just the books themselves, but also you can add in other kinds of very enticing offers that we may be perhaps offering anyway, but people don't get to see them. But if you put them all in one package, say you get all this. You've probably seen other companies do this. You know, they'll list a long array of benefits that you're going to get when you take their product. Not just this, but this and this and this and this and this and this. And only for $49.99. And so you can bunch it together and offer the Bhagavatam along with other kinds of services, and it attracts people's minds. We do find that once the set goes in the house, it has a profound effect on everybody in the home. Just having the Bhagavatam physically in their house. The man you saw there, Ashok, who had taken the Bhagavatam, is a good representative sample. Now let's hear if you have any questions or special mention about the selling of Bhagavatam sets. One thing, while I'm thinking of it, is people come to ISKCON all the time with an appreciation for it and want to be more involved. So what kinds of things do we generally tell them they can do to get more involved in Krishna consciousness? Yes? Come to the temple regularly and listen to Bhagavatam. How about chanting? A lot of times we teach them how to chant, something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that we started doing is when we meet these kinds of people that are interested in ISKCON, they want to know, what are the next steps? How can I get closer? We tell them that one of the major first steps that you can take to be a part of the Krishna Consciousness Society is to own a full set of Prabhupada's books and keep them in your home. Because it's true. Every person who's dedicated to ISKCON or has some affinity for it should own a full set of books. And if you make that a standard when people first come and they say, what do I do now? Say, well, you can chant, and you should also own a full set of Prabhupada's books. And if you have them packaged and ready to go, and you offer it to people regularly, it becomes the norm. It's what people do when they first come. What other points did you hear, or would you like to ask questions about in full sets? Yes.
Hare Krishna. So how can we answer when somebody says that I cannot read so much, means it's bulky and many volumes are there, I cannot read. How to answer those people?
We tell people, and it depends on who the person is. One thing is, one of the largest selling points is if people have children in their family. And we talk about how important it is for the kids, and that the kids will look at the pictures and they'll also hear some of the stories on a regular basis, and that will make a huge difference in their lives. And we give the example of several of the children that have grown up in ISKCON just hearing Bhagavatam. For instance, you may have heard of Radhika Raman Prabhu, whose name used to be Ravi Gupta. Have you heard of him? Yes, of course. So he's not only a great devotee, he's a great scholar. From every aspect of life, spiritual, material, he's a success. So oftentimes we present that, look at, if your children have access to the Bhagavatam, this is what can happen. If they have access to other kinds of books, look what can happen. Also, we tell people, it's not that you have to read this all at once, but if you read in small installments, and we even give them that chart that I'm going to give you today that tells you how many pages a day. Only we have a special chart that's just for Bhagavatam that tells them how they have to read just a little bit every day. And finally, and I tell this to people all the time, not just for Bhagavatams, but people say that for every book, right? You show a Bhagavad Gita and they say, oh, I can't carry it, it's too bulky, or they say, I won't read it. And I say, that's fine, you don't have to read it. This book is so powerful that if you put it in your house, it'll attract good fortune into your life. And then I say, you know how when you take a magnet and you put it in your iron filings, the iron filings are attracted to the magnet. You can't see the magnetic force, but you can see the result, right? They say, yeah. I say, in the same way, when you put this book in your house, it'll attract good fortune into your life and for your whole family. And sometimes people say, well, I don't believe that. And then let's say, that's the best part about it. Even if you don't believe it, it still works anyway. And so I present the books more as a way that, like when I was walking out of the Juhu temple, just before we came here, a devotee came up to me and gave me a card with a picture of Radharasi Bihari on it. And he said, this is for good luck. This is good luck. Keep this card, good luck. So I kept the card. I was like, I'm keeping this card. I have it up in my room here. And I was thinking, when we present the Bhagavatam and other books, oftentimes people, they don't have the intention of just reading them. But when we present that, you know where good luck comes from? This is the other thing I tell people. You know where good luck comes from? And they go, where? And he goes, well, it doesn't come from working harder. Because sometimes people work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and they still don't get ahead. And they don't have any good luck in their life. Good luck comes from the spiritual platform. And that's what this book is. So there are many things that you can say to just emphasize that them taking the book will bring them good fortune. Okay? Yes. Another question?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I have another question. That sometimes people say that nowadays everything is available in internet. So why should I buy some more books? So how can we answer those questions?
Because these are deities. And when you have the deities in your home, it'll attract good fortune. The Bhagavatam is the incarnation of Krishna in the age of Kali. Krishne swadamo pagate dharma ganadi visaha kalo nashta drishamesha purar narko danodita. Idam Bhagavatam nama puranam brahma samhitam uttama shloka charitam chakara bhagavan rishi. Nishaya shaya lokasya dhamnam swastayanam mahat. There's so much evidence in the Bhagavatam about what an important book it is. And you have to learn the glories of the Bhagavatam and then present the glories with enthusiasm. You should listen to the recent seminar. It's listed on our website at ISV. You know ISV, our temple, ISKCON Silicon Valley? We list all the outstanding lectures. And recently, Radhika Raman Prabhu came there and he gave a 2-day seminar about the glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's fantastic. There's so many different aspects of the Bhagavatam that are so extraordinary. Even from the point of view of regular mundane scholars who only look at language and the aesthetic of language and so forth, there's no comparison to Bhagavatam, just the language and the Sanskrit that it's written in and so forth. And when you learn those things and you can list them and present them to people with enthusiasm and conviction that they need to have this, it's really important. The other thing is, the experience is completely different looking at things electronically. And in fact, new studies are showing that internet and e-books are not outpacing paper books. They are not. It's not that paper books are declining. They're increasing right now. And many people are saying we won't read ebooks because a book itself contains a finite number of words, whereas these e-readers contain theoretically an infinite number of words connected to the internet. And people don't like that. They like the intimacy of a book that they can take with them, they can put on their shelf, they know what's contained within that one part. They can mark it up, they can put flags in it and all kinds of things. So recently I heard on public radio a presentation by Bic Pen. It's one of the biggest pen companies in America. So they have their representative going all over talking about the importance of writing. Because nowadays everyone's using computers and electronic devices for writing things, a lot of students, so they're losing the ability to write. But she was giving a lot of different studies about how important it is to write, because there's a hand-brain connection. It impresses much more. There's studies that show this. And after hearing that, many people will say, okay, I'm going to get a pen. I'm going to write on the paper. And in the same way, when people present and they say, oh, electronic compared to a paper book and everything, you just have to present to them and say, listen, books are going up because people like books. They're better. You should take it. Nothing wrong with the electronic, but you should have the book. There's an aesthetic to that that's lost when you just go on the internet. You had a question? Yes.
I'm sorry, I stammer sometimes when I speak. But there is one thing which I wanted to tell. As you said, you had made just new members of that moment called, one chapter daily Bhagavad Gita. Then I think, we should, as a devotee, we all should make a resolution to read Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam also daily. And we must set a target for ourselves also as to finish it within 5 years or whatever is the target. Because that way we will be naturally, we will get the naturally convincing power to convince the people what is the Srimad Bhagavatam and all.
You're 100% correct.
Because the most common excuse which people give, the materialistic people give, is we don't have time to read all these books. But as a devotee also, we sometimes use this excuse because we all are busy in chanting, we have our other duties like jobs, we are busy in prachar seva, so we don't get time to read. But we must take out some time regularly to read Srimad Bhagavatam so that we can convince the other people also.
Yeah, I told you what Prabhupada told me. He said, you must also read my books. And it's one of the basics that, if performed every day, will solve all one's problems. Because hearing Prabhupada's purports clarifies the intelligence. There are many decisions we have to make, and according to Chanakya Pandit, our future is dependent on our decisions. And if you read regularly Bhagavatam, then you make good decisions, because your intelligence becomes purified. So yes, I totally agree with you. And I'm going to give you that chart very soon so you can look at it and see how many pages a day you need to read out loud. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, sometimes when I stand for book distribution, some people use heavily demotivating words, the repercussions of which stay on my mind for longer than usual. So how do I overcome that instantly?
You have to become a robot, and I'll teach you how. You reach your right hand, or whichever hand you have available, behind your neck. There's a little switch back there. Can you feel it? No, put it back there. I want you to flip the switch, and as soon as you flip the switch, you become a robot. Are you ready? Okay, flip it. Now you're a robot. Robots don't have any feelings. And oftentimes, I had to go out by myself on book distribution for some time due to circumstances. So I go out I had a vow to go out every day, and I would go out, and sometimes there was nobody to go with me, and I kind of didn't feel like it. So I would just flip the switch and say, I'm a robot, what do I care? And what do I care what anybody says to me anyway? Because I'm just a robot. Oftentimes I'm afraid to talk to this person or that person because, you know, they might think this or that. So I just flip the switch and he goes, who cares? Robots don't care about anything. So you go on robot mode. Learn to go on robot mode and become unfeeling and just do your duty. And do the best you can in the circumstance. And anything anybody says to you. Here's a book I read a long time ago, really helped me. It's called The 4 Agreements. Have you ever heard of this? I'll tell you the 4 agreements. It helps. First is your speech must be impeccable. So the word impeccable comes from Latin impecciare, which means sinless, without sin. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. Because it has nothing to do with you. It's coming from the other person. It's whatever that's in their heart. It doesn't mean that they have any accurate idea of who you are. They're just speaking out of anger or whatever it is because that's what's in their heart, so it comes out. So don't take it personally. If you have practice, don't taking things personally. Third thing is never assume. And I'll give you an example of assumption and the problems it causes. Example he gives in the book. That one day, man goes to the shopping mall. He sees his best friend come out of one of the doors of the shops. His best friend looks him in the eye, and then he turns around and walks away. And turns around and walks away, and then the man thinks, what's wrong? My friend doesn't like me anymore. In fact, I think he hates me. And then he thinks, well, I hate him too. And then all week long, he can barely sleep, and he's thinking, I wonder why he hates me. Anyway, I hate him anyway. And then a week later, he sees his friend. He says, all right, I know you hate me, and I hate you too. But I just want to know why you hate me. And his friend said, what are you talking about? We're best friends. He said, last week, you saw me at the mall, and you turned around and walked away. He said, what day was that? He said, Friday. He said, last Friday I was at the eye doctor. They put drops in my eyes. I couldn't see anything. I had to call my wife to drive me home. I didn't see you at the mall. So all week long, the person was thinking in their mind that there was something going on that wasn't really there. Never assume. Avoid that. And don't take it personally. And the fourth agreement is always do your best. Your best may vary from day to day. What you can do one day may not match what you can do, but if you try the best you can with what you have now, sincerely try, then you have nothing to worry about. So try becoming a robot and try applying the 4 agreements. Okay? Yes, in the back.
Hare Krishna. Like when Prabhupada said that distribute my book by hook or crook. So what is the meaning of that, and what are the limitations for that?
Limitations, yeah. Well, one thing is we have a prime directive that we teach all our devotees, and that is leave everyone with a good impression. And if you take that as your prime directive to leave everyone with a good impression, then you'll be about in the right place when you present. Go out of your way to make sure they go away with a good impression of you and of the book. And so by hook or by crook means that, like a doctor, when a doctor's administering medicine, he or she sees that the patient needs something and the patient might not want to take it. Sometimes people get in a diabetic coma and they become non-responsive. And sometimes they actually become violent towards the doctor. My friend Satyadev Prabhu was a paramedic for 20 years. He told me all these stories about treating people in the field. And he would have to tolerate so many different kinds of behavior because people who were sick or crazy, they didn't know how to treat them. But still he had to administer the medicine. And in a similar way, we're doctors, we're administering spiritual medicine. So Prabhupada used to give the example, like even recently, I was sitting with some parents and their kid was there, and they were feeding him, and they had to do like an airplane. Here comes the spoon, it's got the cereal, and the kid's, no, I'm not going to take it. So it's an airplane. Then he takes it. So we may have to say so many things to get people to take the book. The limitation is you have to also have respect for the person and appreciate the fact that how you present it and the way that you do it will have a lasting effect on the person as well. It's one thing just to get a large number of books out, but it's also to do it in such a way that people's minds and hearts are open towards you. If they appreciate you as a gentle devotee, or just as someone who really cares about them, then they'll have a tendency to want to read the book. And as I said before, even if they don't take a book, but you leave a good impression, later on they'll come back and take a book. Or they'll say good things about the devotees. It's an art. You have to learn the art. How to be a little bit direct or forceful with people even, but at the same time to leave a good impression. And that's the balance point that you have to learn. Okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna Guruji. I wanted to ask, when we say book distribution, does that mean only Prabhupada books?
Well, there are many different kinds of books. Even when Prabhupada was here, Dr. Swarup Damodar wrote a book, and Prabhupada loved it and wanted to see it distributed and so forth. One thing I can say is that Prabhupada's books are the primal and prime vibration of ISKCON. They are the foundational books. They're the books that we bring people to ultimately. And it's not to say that other people can't write books, because if they can't write with deep realization and write sweetly about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, what are the value of Prabhupada's books? People have been reading them for many years. If they can't actually become advanced enough to represent Krishna consciousness in writing, what is the value of the whole process that's being taught in Prabhupada's books? So I don't think it's a good idea to say nobody should write any other books or present any other books. However, there is quite a bit of a literature available nowadays, and you can get lost in it. And this came up even at the time when Prabhupada was here. And devotees asked Prabhupada it was okay to read books of previous acharyas, for instance. And there was a controversy about that between the devotees. And Prabhupada said, yes, of course you read the books of the previous acharyas, but digest what you have now. How many people have actually made a real study of Bhagavad Gita, besides that little Muslim girl who won the award? And how many people have actually deeply studied the Nectar of Devotion or the Srimad Bhagavatam? But everyone wants to move on because that's the nature of the mind. In any case, there are some bridge books that have been really successful over the years, like the Higher Taste Cookbook. Actually saved the American BBT at one time because it became so popular. They were selling so many that during a time when there was a little bit of a lull in book distribution, it really helped pick things up. But my feeling is Prabhupada's books should be front and center. They shouldn't get lost in all the other books. Like sometimes you can go to a temple and there'll be thousands of other books presented, and then you can barely find where Prabhupada's books are. They should be very much prominent, and we should direct people to those books. As I was saying before, part of the experience of being in ISKCON, or the dedication, is to own a full set of Prabhupada's books, and we should direct people to that. At the same time, there are other excellent books that people can read. So it's kind of a balance. That goes for paraphernalia also. There's ways in which devotees start a book table, and next thing they sell, let's sell some incense. Next thing they say, let's sell them some bead bags. Next thing they're selling soap. Next thing they're selling houses. Next thing they're selling cars. I mean, you can veer off in any different direction. Focusing on books, and mostly Prabhupada's books, 80%, 90%, is not a bad way to go. You stay focused in that way, you'll do fine. And people are happy to get Prabhupada's books. You had a question or point?
Hare Krishna.
Oh, okay, just after that.
In Khargar, in fact, we've come up with a schedule of reading small books and then the Bhagavad Gita and then the Bhagavatam. There's a nice schedule we've come up with, which shows systematically if you follow, then you can sort of get to the essence of the philosophy of the Krishna conscious movement. So we pretty much
Systematic.
follow that. Systematic.
That's nice. It's beautiful.
I mean, we can share it if it's required.
Yeah, please do.
Sure.
It's wonderful. Microphone over here. Raise your hand.
There was a really nice meditation that another devotee gave at a book distribution seminar. I can't remember his name, but maybe you'll know. He was telling us about a dream that he had where in the dream he fell asleep in the temple right in front of Srila Prabhupada's murti. And in the dream when he woke up, he looked up at Prabhupada and he was looking down at him. And Prabhupada said, "I want to preach. Please take me out onto the street. I want to talk to someone." So then this devotee was standing on the street with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was standing right next to him. And it was really busy and he kept trying to stop people. "Please stop. My spiritual master wants to talk to you. My guru wants to talk to you." And people were just ignoring him and kept walking by. And then finally when someone stopped, he said, "My guru wants to talk to you. Prabhupada wants to talk to you." And he turned and Prabhupada wasn't there anymore. And he looked down and he was holding a Bhagavad Gita in his hand. And he was telling us that through that he realized so strongly that when we're going out on book distribution, we're directly giving Srila Prabhupada to these people. He said he'll live forever in his books. So
I think that would make a nice skit or a little short movie, wouldn't it?
yeah.
If you could do it, produce it nicely and have somebody, they fall asleep in the temple room and then they have this dream come in and all this Prabhupada's looking down and I want to go preach. Next thing, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Thanks for sharing that. That was really nice.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful seminar, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is we heard a lot Prabhupada talking about Tripurari Prabhu. He says he's an incarnation of book distribution. So would you like to share something about him which will inspire?
Yeah, well, I was on Tripurari Maharaj's party. He's Swami. He's been Swami since 1975. Very steady. He joined the movement in 1971, I believe, or 70, as Thomas Baudry. And he had his wife and just a very young child. But he was living outside and he was very interested in Prabhupada's books, and he started distributing books before he came to the temple, spontaneously. And he would hold a little program at his house to read Krishna book for people. So when the devotees saw him, they said, "Hey, wait a minute, you can't do that. You have to come to the temple." So they brought him to the temple in Los Angeles, and he met Prabhupada, and he early on became really good at distributing books. He would go out and sell a lot of small books in front of stores, which no one had ever seen anybody sell so many small books. And then one day, Sarvabhauma, who was one of the Sankirtan devotees there in Los Angeles, said, "So how many big books are you selling?" And he said, "Not any." He said, "How many are you taking with you?" Which law is that? Which law is that? I know it's late in the afternoon. Let's try it again. Which law is that? That's right. So Tripurari took out a big book with him because Sarvabhauma said, "Just take one with you." So he took a Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, kept it in his bag, and all day long he was selling these small books. And he asked, "How do I sell a big book?" And Sarvabhauma said, "You pray to Prabhupada and you'll be able to sell it." So he prayed to Prabhupada, he went out, he forgot about the book, and at the end of the day, when he was selling small books, one of the ladies he talked to said, "Wait a minute, what's that other book there in your bag?" And he said, "You mean this one?" She said, "Yeah, that's the one I want." And she bought it. So he went home and he said, "This praying to Prabhupada really works." So he started selling some of the big books, and he was one of the ones that broke the barrier, one of the original book distributors who broke the barrier and was able to go out and sell 40 big books and then 60 big books in one day. He was going to the Los Angeles airport undercover because it was illegal there. And the devotees had to go, they had to wear wigs and sneak around. And the police would always be looking for them, but they'd go from one terminal to the next and sell books at the airport. And he became very expert at that, selling books at the airport. And then Rameshwar Prabhu was instrumental in expanding book distribution in a major way. He was one of the first BBT trustees in America, and he worked directly with Prabhupada. And he saw some talent in Tripurari, and he sent him out to various temples to train others. So that's when Prabhupada wrote the letter, said, I very much appreciate your system of sending others out to train others. Then Tripurari started a party in Chicago. We started it there because it was the biggest airport in America. It still is, maybe. And there was a nice temple there. And so there was, besides the temple, we had a party of devotees. I joined that party in 1974 and worked with Tripurari Maharaj and about 20 other devotees. And we would station there, and then we would be sent out to many, many different places, to all the temples in America and other countries, and we would spend time there and train the devotees how to sell books. And so Tripurari Maharaj was in charge of that party, and he was an expert book distributor himself, very much empowered. And then, Prabhupada acknowledged his service, said, you are the incarnation of book distribution. And also, at the time, he didn't have a GBC. And so at one of the Mayapur meetings, some of the devotees complained. They said, he doesn't have a GBC. Prabhupada said, he doesn't need a GBC because he was distributing. Prabhupada appreciated that book distribution that was going on. He gave special concession for that. So he's a legend, from the book distribution days. Very learned person. Is that enough?
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Yes.
Prabhuji, like the first law that you mentioned was strong sadhana. And you also mentioned book distribution as heavy sadhana. So when we do our sadhana, like it's basically like 16 rounds of attentive chanting, following the regulative principles. So my question is that during the extra time that we get, should we go more deep into the Shastra, associate more with devotees, do Kirtan, Krishna Katha, or should we go for book distribution? Or it depends on the individual, like what?
It should be balanced. So think of it this way. There's a time to give full attention to your sadhana every day, and that's like especially before the sun comes up. There's a time every month when you should give full attention, like Ekadashi. It's a time every year when you can give full attention, like Kartik. Now, of course, these may not be convenient times according to your schedule, but I recommend that in your overall schedule of distributing books, you should add in areas where you spend time intensively practicing Krishna consciousness. I compare it to heavy rains. Sometimes in a place there are heavy rains and then the water stores up underground. And then the plants stay alive all year long. So when you get opportunities to do intensive hearing and chanting at various intervals, take advantage of those and do it as much as possible. At the same time, you should have a basic program that you do every day. And over your lifespan, you should increase that basic program. And gradually, you'll be constantly hearing and chanting. And there's an example in science when you have a frog and you put him in a pot of hot water, he jumps out right away because he feels the difference and he jumps out. But if you put a frog in lukewarm water and then you gradually heat it up, then he becomes boiled in that water, unfortunately, for the frog. Because it's by increments. He can't see feel what's happening because it happens so gradually. So similarly, over your life, you should have your basic program of sadhana, but incrementally increase it until, like that frog, you actually become fully immersed in hearing and chanting. And going on book distribution. I don't recommend stopping your book distribution at any time in your life. I was a brahmachari for 13 years. I've been in household life for 28 or 29 years. And during the different phases of my life, one common practice has been hearing and chanting and going on book distribution. And even when I was in my household, I had a business, but I didn't stop going out on book distribution. And I recommend that for everybody because it's a high sadhana and it keeps you connected to Prabhupada in a very special way. Does that help? And just as an example, I take Kartik time to go to Vrindavan, and I sit down at Govardhan Hill, and we have a program, 5 hours a day of reading for the full 30 days. And so we go through, like last year, a group of us sat there, we read the whole Krishna book in 26 days. And the Antya Leela of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there's nothing like it. If you want to give a complete boost to your life spiritually, sit down for 1 month and don't do anything else besides go and take prasadam and maybe walk around Giriraj once a day. Besides hear and chant from Prabhupada's books and discuss what's in them. Prabhupada personally told me when our temple president, Bhaktidas, was saying, oh, they're doing so many books, Prabhupada looked at us, looked right at me. He said, you must also read my books. He didn't say, great, sell more books, go out every day, forget about hearing and chanting. He said, read the books. And he said that consistently. When reports came in that such and such was doing a lot of books, he would say, tell them to also read the books. And he says it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, if my students don't read all my books, they'll get back into eating, sleeping, and they'll fall down. And it's a fact. You have to maintain a high level of sadhana throughout your whole life. And if you leave off somewhere, if you back off from it, the Maya will drag you in a direction you won't even know it. So stay strong. You had a question, point, yes.
I was just wondering, Prabhu, it doesn't seem like there's so many Prabhupada disciples that have kept up with book distribution consistently through their lives. At least you don't hear about them so often. And there's always a tendency in people to want to move on and do new services and do different things. So I was just wondering if you could share personally how you've managed to feel inspired throughout your whole life and keep going through so steadily with that service.
Well, I do other services. I like to do deity worship myself, and I do it every day. And I was saved by Prabhupada's books, so I have a special affinity for them. I was sitting in my room in Lafayette, California, 16 years old, meditating on a candle flame, because I was a seeker and I wanted to find God. And I was reading books about meditation and about mantras. And sitting there one day, I had taken a vow of silence and meditating. And my friend from high school, Richie Corsa, came and knocked on my door. It was at my parents' house. He brought me the Back to Godhead magazine. He said, I don't want it. Hare Krishna took my last 50 cents. But I know you're into this stuff, so I'm going to leave it for you. Actually, I didn't open the door, because in all the books I read, we were all one. And so when he was knocking on the door, I reasoned that I'm him, he's me, he knows what I'm thinking, I know what he's thinking, so it doesn't matter if I answer the door or not. So he was yelling at me through the door, come take the magazine. He said, all right, I'm leaving it here. And when I came out and I picked up the Back to Godhead magazine, I had a visceral experience that I had just contacted the spiritual world. I had seen many other books. I read Buddhist books and this book, that book. But when I saw the Back to Godhead magazine, I was literally stunned. And then I opened the cover and I saw Prabhupada's picture. And I'd been looking for a spiritual guide, a teacher, a guru. And then when I saw Prabhupada's picture, that's my guru. I just knew right away. And when I saw the pictures of the devotees, I said, I want to be one of those. And then inside the Back to Godhead magazine was an advertisement. and it was for Sri Upanishad. It says, actually, the ancient Vedas of India say that God is a person, the Supreme Absolute is a person. And my jaw dropped. I'd never heard that before. Everyone else said, there is no person. And if you see a person, it's like the impersonal behind the person. And I was always thinking that was weird, because who was I praying to? They would say pray, even they would teach bhakti, and they say pray, but actually you're God. And I was thinking, how am I going to pray to myself and chant to myself? So the point is, I went to the bookstore, and I bought whatever books they had by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my life completely changed. So I've felt a dedication specifically to his books. And early on, when I joined, it was 1973, it's just when book distribution was starting to peak. And everybody knew it. Everyone said it, that it was the most important service Prabhupada was emphasizing. And I just come from that culture, from that time, and I have my own experience. And no one ever told me to stop. So, there was a brahmachari on our yatra last year. He chanted for about 3 hours all the way home on the bus doing the Harinam. It was really nice. We got there and someone said, you just chanted for 3 hours straight without stopping. He goes, well, no one told me to stop. And I was thinking the same thing when people ask me about book distribution. It's like, who asked me to stop? I mean, it's a short life anyway. You go through, decades just go by like that. If you're concentrating on what you're doing with your sadhana and your other things, life goes by fast. I just used most of it up. And it just seems to me like a few minutes have gone by. And now, in retrospect, I recommend it. I recommend keeping close to book distribution. No matter whatever other service you do, go out. Take a little time. You may not be a full-time book distributor, but take time to go out. And if you can't go out, then spend time going in and find out how you can do it internally or help in some way be connected. But it's really beneficial to meet people one-on-one, because every time you do, you're reminded of the first time that you read Prabhupada's books, when you see somebody take it. And it revives you over and over and over again. There's so many reasons why it's important and why I've done it throughout my whole life. Also, good association. Those who actually appreciate the value of it. Yes. I see Shriram starting to get up. That means that we're almost done.
Thank you very much for sharing. I was going to ask you how you came to Krishna consciousness, but I was a little bit hesitant. Thank you very much for sharing it. I have one more question as about, reading one chapter of Bhagavad Gita daily. Is it a good idea to read one chapter repeatedly, or is it a good idea to daily different chapters a day?
It's according to taste. You try either way, whichever you like. I like to chant one chapter over and over again until I learn the chapter. There's something really satisfying about that. And I got introduced to that from a devotee who's no longer with us, a god brother. His name is Kushakrata. He wrote a lot of books. He was a very brilliant person. And I remember he lived in the San Diego temple. And when I first went there on traveling Sankirtan, he had all the brahmacharis. Everyone was waiting for the one shower. But they were all chanting whole chapters of Gita. And I said, how'd you do that? And they said, Kushakrata got us into it. We do it every day. And so also Jayananda. Have you heard of Jayananda? He was my bhakti leader in San Francisco when I first joined. And I used to sit with him every day before Mangalartik, and we would recite the Sri Upanishad. Prabhupada told him to do that. And so I learned that early on, that if you just faithfully every day recite the same thing over and over, now I can recite practically all of them, because I've been doing it for so many years. And if you just do it regularly with attention, with devotion, and over time, you'll learn it. If you want to learn shlokas too, it's a really important thing to learn shlokas if you can. Some people just don't seem to be able to do it, but if you have an inclination for it, get into it. It's actually something that you can learn to do. If you push yourself, for instance, I had this program learning 4 new shlokas a day. So I print out 4 shlokas and I carry them around. And you say, that's too many to learn. But actually it's not. If you really push yourself and you look at these 4 shlokas and you keep practicing, your brain will accommodate it. I don't know how I got onto that, but hopefully it was related. Yes. Anyway, I would like to say that it's been a life-changing experience coming and spending time with you. It seems like we've been together for a while, even though it's just been 2 days. We've talked about a lot of different things. We've heard from different devotees. And these kinds of gatherings are really important to come together and see the enthusiasm of the other devotees and remember how important it is to dedicate one's life fully to the process of Krishna consciousness. Are they giving away free gifts or anything? I noticed all the attention going over there. I thought maybe they're giving away free stuff.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I think last 2-3 seminars, we didn't have this kind of session. I personally learned personal experience of Vaisesika Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji. And I think everybody has filled up these forms, feedback forms. Okay. So whoever not got it, just fill it up. We'll have one. Hare Krishna. So we'll have one bhajan now, final bhajan, and we'll have a vote of thanks, and Vaisesika Prabhu personally give gifts to everybody, and we'll disperse. So one small announcement, there is a bus going to Juhu at 4:30 p.m. sharp at reception. Mira Road devotees, Pandaripur, Juhu, devotees whoever came bus, all devotees related should be in reception by 4:30 sharp. Yeah, if you're delayed, the bus will going to leave 4:30. The main reception on the, wherever you got on the bus, main gate. So anybody has some issues, contact Tridama Prabhuji. I'll repeat the number, 99877 99877 Yeah. 99877 So you can contact him, and Chopati devotees 86413. 86413. And Chopati devotees also will be in the same time, 4:30 at reception. Baldev Prabhuji? Correct? Okay. Anybody is extending their stay here of your accommodation, need to take permission from the local management. And we have only booked for today. If there is any special requirement, you need to coordinate with the local authorities here. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, one small thing and very important. This is Sri Ram Prabhu. He is the person behind this WIDC seminar. Actually, we do not know what happened behind the whole scene. Prabhu is the temple president of Mangalore temple. He just has got a small kid. In spite of that, he has been coordinating this program. The first day when he came here, he missed his flight. And still he landed here. And Vaisesika Prabhu is here just because Prabhu has taken so much pain to coordinate with all the devotees here. And he took his time out and brought it here. In fact, before that, we never had a program like this of Vaisesika Prabhu. Even SIDC also, he coordinates. So he deserves a good applause from all of us. Hari Bol.
I'm happy that I could serve all of you and got opportunity, because we never got opportunity to serve apart from the local South India. So I'm very happy to be here.
Actually, Sri Ram's brother, whose name is SKP, Sri Krishna Purushottam Das, is our co-Sankirtan leader at ISV. So these two brothers are having a big impact all over the world on book distribution. And I would just say about Sri Ram Prabhu that he works tirelessly. And he never complains, and he never tries to put himself forward that he's doing a lot of work. I just see it. I start to notice how much he's putting into it. So, Sri Ram Prabhu, it's a fact that this wouldn't happen without you. You have a steady and methodical approach, and you just keep on going. And now wonderful things are happening. So we thank you very much. Also, Krishna Mitra Nitai comes all the way from South India. Whenever we're having programs, he's part of the ISLT team. He's the most enthusiastic person spontaneously for book distribution that I've ever met. Anywhere there's book distribution going on, he goes there, and he's interested in one thing, seeing book distribution increase. So let's thank him.
I'd like to add.
And Vamshuli Das over here has been working tirelessly, helping to put together so many of the aspects of the team, and sacrificing his time and energy for this, extremely dedicated. So let's thank Vamshuli. We started with the Shad Goswami Ashtakam, and now we're going to sing it one more time, asking for their blessings, for us to go back out or go back in, whichever way you're headed, to please bless us that we can please the Guru Parampara by our service, and please Srila Prabhupada very specifically by distributing his books. It's the right time, and this is the window of opportunity that we have right now in this Kali Yuga, at the very beginning of Lord Chaitanya's movement, to spread it all over the world.